Hi, welcome to the Mindset English channel. I'm Michael Carter. Welcome back. If you're new here, this channel is not about difficult grammar, confusing rules, or trying to sound like someone you're not. This channel is about helping you use English confidently in real life. And today's topic is train to speak English without apologizing. Let me begin with something honest. If you speak English as a second language, chances are you apologize far more than you should. You apologize before you speak. You apologize while you are speaking. And sometimes you apologize even after you finish speaking, even when nobody asked you to. You might say sorry for your accent. Sorry for taking time. Sorry for making a small mistake. Or sorry just for being part of the conversation. If this sounds familiar, I want you to know something very clearly. This habit has nothing to do with politeness and everything to do with fear. Most English learners do not apologize because they are rude or careless. They apologize because they feel like they are doing something wrong by speaking. Somewhere along the way, they learned a silent lesson that their English is a problem. That lesson might have come from teachers who corrected too harshly, classmates who laughed, coworkers who interrupted, or even from years of comparing themselves to fluent speakers online. Over time, that lesson becomes a belief. And that belief sounds like this: I must apologize before someone judges me. But here is the truth that will change how you see yourself. Speaking English is not something you need to apologize for. Pausing is not something you need to apologize for. Thinking is not something you need to apologize for. Having an accent is not something you need to apologize for. None of these things are mistakes. They are normal parts of human communication, even for native speakers. Think about how confident native speakers talk. They pause. They restart sentences. They correct themselves. They search for words. And they do all of this without saying sorry. Why? Because they believe they have the right to speak. That belief creates calm. Calm creates confidence. Confidence creates presence. And presence is what people respond to, not perfection. Many English learners were never taught that speaking is a right. They were taught that speaking is a performance. Speak correctly or stay quiet. Speak fast or feel embarrassed. Speak perfectly or apologize. That kind of pressure trains the body to shrink. And when the body shrinks, the voice follows. This series exists to retrain that response. Not by forcing you to be louder, faster, or more aggressive, but by helping you remove unnecessary guilt from your voice. Speaking without apologizing does not mean becoming rude or disrespectful. It means speaking from a place of stability instead of insecurity. There is a big difference between being polite and being apologetic. Politeness is respectful. Apologizing for your existence is self-erasing. One of the most powerful tools we use in this training is slow English. Slow English gives you space. When you slow down, you tell your brain that you are not in danger and not in a rush. You are not asking for permission. You are communicating. That simple shift changes how your body reacts. Your shoulders relax. Your breathing deepens. Your voice becomes steadier. And when your body feels safe, apologizing becomes less automatic. It is important to understand that apologizing is often a habit, not a choice. Habits live in the nervous system. You might know logically that you do not need to say sorry, but your mouth says it before your mind can stop it. That is why confidence training is not about motivation alone. It is about awareness and repetition. We notice the habit and we gently replace it. You may feel uncomfortable when you stop apologizing. At first, silence might appear where the apology used to be. That silence can feel scary. Your brain might ask, am I being rude? Am I being judged? Am I doing something wrong? That discomfort is normal. It means you are interrupting an old pattern. Old patterns resist change before they release control. I want you to notice something right now. You are listening to this in English. You are understanding it. That means you already have enough English to deserve space in a conversation. You do not need to earn that space by apologizing. You already earned it through effort, practice, and courage. Around the world, millions of confident professionals speak English as a second or third language. They do not sound perfect. They do not hide their accents. And they do not apologize for being heard. They speak calmly. They pause naturally. They continue even when a sentence is not perfect. People listen to them because confidence is not about flawless language. Confidence is about grounded presence. This is what we are training in this series. Grounded presence. Not speed, not perfection. Grounded presence means you stay with your sentence even if it is not ideal. You correct yourself without saying sorry. You pause without guilt. You continue without shrinking. As we move through the next segments, you will learn where this apologizing habit comes from in your body, how to notice it before it escapes your mouth, and how to replace it with neutral, confident language. You will learn how to pause instead of apologize, how to restart a sentence without guilt, and how to take up space in English calmly and respectfully. For now, I want you to do one simple thing. Say this sentence slowly, out loud if you can. I am allowed to speak English without apologizing. Say it again. Notice how it feels. It may feel unfamiliar or slightly uncomfortable. That is okay. Unfamiliar means you are learning something new. You are not rude. You are not wrong. You are not behind. You are simply learning to stop shrinking in a language you worked hard to understand. And you deserve to speak without guilt. In the next segment, we will gently explore the emotional roots of apologizing and learn how to interrupt that habit without forcing yourself to become someone you are not. We will continue slowly, calmly, and intentionally until speaking without apology feels natural. When you are ready, we will move forward together. In the first segment, you became aware of something very important. You realized that apologizing while speaking English is not about politeness, but about fear and conditioning. Now, in this second segment, we go one layer deeper. We look at where this habit actually lives and why it feels so automatic, even when you know you don't need to say sorry. Understanding this will help you stop blaming yourself and start changing the habit calmly. For most English learners, apologizing is not a conscious decision. It happens before you can think. You open your mouth, and the word sorry appears. This happens because your body learned to associate English with risk. Risk of embarrassment, risk of being misunderstood, risk of being judged. When the body senses risk, it looks for a way to reduce it. Apologizing is one of the fastest ways the nervous system tries to stay safe. It is not weakness, it is protection. Many learners believe that confidence is a personality trait. They think some people are born confident and others are not. But confidence is actually a nervous system state. When your nervous system feels calm, you speak calmly. When it feels threatened, you shrink, rush, or apologize. That is why telling yourself to stop apologizing rarely works. The habit is not controlled by logic, it is controlled by the body. Think back to the first times you spoke English out loud. Maybe you were corrected in front of others. Maybe someone laughed, even unintentionally. Maybe you saw impatience on someone's face. Or maybe you simply compared yourself to fluent speakers and felt small. Your brain recorded those moments as danger. It learned that English equals exposure. Once that association is formed, your body tries to reduce exposure every time you speak. Apologizing becomes a reflex. This is why many learners apologize even before making a mistake. They say sorry at the beginning of a sentence, not the end. That apology is not about something that already happened. It is about something they fear might happen. Fear of not finding the right word. Fear of sounding slow. Fear of sounding different. The apology comes first because the fear comes first. Slow English plays a critical role here. When you slow down, you interrupt the reflex. Fast speech keeps the nervous system activated. Slow speech tells the body that there is no emergency. When there is no emergency, the need to apologize decreases. This is not about forcing yourself to speak slowly. It is about allowing yourself to take time without guilt. You may notice that when you speak slowly, the urge to say sorry becomes weaker. That is because the apology was never about the sentence itself. It was about the pressure around the sentence. Remove the pressure, and the apology loses its purpose. This is why we always focus on pace before confidence. Pace regulates the nervous system. Confidence follows. Another important thing to understand is that apologizing often feels polite because you learned it as a social strategy. In many cultures, apologizing is used to show respect. But in English speaking environments, unnecessary apologies often signal insecurity, not politeness. This does not mean you should never apologize. Real apologies are important, but apologizing for thinking, pausing, or having an accent sends the wrong message to your own brain. It reinforces the belief that you are doing something wrong by speaking. At this stage, you are not trying to eliminate apologies completely. You are trying to notice them. Awareness always comes before change. When you notice yourself about to say sorry, do not criticize yourself. Criticism creates more tension. Simply notice the moment. That noticing creates a small pause, and that pause is powerful. In that pause, you have a choice. The replacement for apology is not silence and not aggression. The replacement is neutrality. Neutral language allows you to continue without shrinking. Instead of saying sorry for taking time, you pause and continue. Instead of saying sorry for your accent, you ignore it and finish your thought. Instead of saying sorry for a mistake, you calmly correct yourself and move on. These small shifts retrain your nervous system. You might feel uncomfortable at first when you don't apologize. That discomfort does not mean you are doing something wrong. It means your body is adjusting to a new pattern. Old patterns feel familiar even when they are harmful. New patterns feel strange even when they are healthy. Give yourself time to adapt. It is also important to stop assuming that others are judging you. Most people are focused on themselves. They are thinking about what they will say next, not about your accent or your pauses. When you apologize unnecessarily, you draw attention to something that most people did not even notice. Calm continuation keeps the focus on meaning, not form. Right now, say this sentence slowly out loud if you can. I can pause and continue without apologizing. Say it again. Let that sentence settle. This is not just a sentence. It is a permission slip for your nervous system. As you practice this in daily life, you may notice that some apologies still escape. That is normal. Habits do not disappear overnight. Every time you catch one apology and replace it with calm continuation, you weaken the old pattern and strengthen the new one. Progress is not measured by perfection. Progress is measured by awareness. In the next segment, we will start training specific moments where apologies usually appear, such as when you make a mistake, when you don't understand, or when you need time to think. You will learn exactly what to do in those moments so that confidence replaces guilt. We will continue step by step, slowly and intentionally, until speaking without apology feels natural instead of forced. When you are ready, we will move forward together. In the previous segment, you learned that apologizing is not a choice you make with your mind, but a reflex your body learned to stay safe. Now, in this segment, we move from understanding to training. This is where change actually begins. In this part, we focus on the exact moments when apologies usually come out and how to replace them calmly without forcing yourself to become someone you are not. Most unnecessary apologies appear in three situations. The first is when you make a mistake. The second is when you don't understand something. And the third is when you need time to think. These moments feel dangerous because they expose imperfection. And for many English learners, imperfection feels unacceptable. So the body tries to soften the moment by apologizing. But what really happens is that the apology makes the moment heavier, not lighter. Let's look at the first situation, making a mistake. When you say a wrong word or sentence, your body may immediately react with panic. Your mouth wants to say sorry as fast as possible, as if that will erase the mistake. But mistakes do not need erasing. They need normalizing. Native speakers make mistakes all the time. They restart, they correct themselves, and they continue. They do not stop the conversation to apologize. They simply move forward. That calm continuation tells everyone, including their own brain, that the mistake is not a problem. When you replace apology with correction, something powerful happens. Instead of saying sorry, you pause briefly, correct the word, and continue. No drama, no explanation, just movement. This trains your nervous system to stay present instead of shrinking. The goal is not to hide mistakes. The goal is to refuse to treat them as emergencies. The second situation is not understanding. Many learners apologize when they don't catch a word or sentence. They say sorry even though they did nothing wrong. Not understanding is not a failure. It is a normal part of communication. Confident speakers ask for repetition without guilt. They do not apologize for their ears. They simply request clarity and continue. When you replace apology with a calm request, you protect your confidence. The third situation is needing time to think. This is one of the most common apology triggers. You feel a pause coming and your body wants to fill it with sorry. But thinking is not rude. Thinking is human. When you apologize for thinking, you tell your brain that thinking is wrong. That belief creates pressure and makes speaking harder. When you allow yourself to pause without apology, you create space for clarity. Slow English is essential here. Speed creates panic. Panic creates apologies. Slowing down breaks that cycle. When you speak slowly, pauses feel natural instead of embarrassing. Silence becomes part of communication, not a sign of failure. This is how confident speakers sound calm even when they are searching for words. At this stage, it is very important not to overcorrect yourself. You are not trying to speak perfectly without apologizing. You are simply training replacement behavior. When an apology wants to come out, you let it pass, you pause, and you continue. Even if it feels uncomfortable at first, that discomfort is temporary. The nervous system adjusts through repetition, not force. You might notice that when you stop apologizing, your voice sounds firmer, not louder, but steadier. That steadiness comes from self-respect. You are respecting your right to think, pause, and make mistakes. That self-respect is what people respond to often without realizing it. It is also important to understand that you do not owe anyone an explanation for your English level. You do not need to justify your accent, your speed, or your word choice. Communication is about meaning, not performance. When you stop explaining and start continuing, you shift the focus from how you sound to what you mean. Right now, say this sentence slowly out loud if you can. I can make mistakes and continue without apologizing. Say it again. Let that sentence feel normal in your body. This is not arrogance. This is confidence training. You may still notice apologies appearing sometimes. That is normal. The goal is not zero apologies. The goal is fewer apologies and faster recovery. Each time you replace one apology with calm continuation, you are rewiring a habit that may have existed for years. That takes patience. As you practice this in daily life, you may realize something surprising. People respond better to you when you stop apologizing. Conversations feel smoother. You feel less tense. And English feels less like something you must defend yourself against. In the next segment, we will work on building assertive but calm sentence patterns that naturally replace apologizing. These patterns will help you sound respectful, confident, and grounded without sounding aggressive. Step by step, we are training your voice to take its place without guilt. When you are ready, we will move forward together. Up to this point, you have learned how to notice apologies, interrupt them, and continue calmly. Now, in this segment, we focus on something very important that makes speaking without apologizing feel natural instead of forced. We focus on building a new inner posture. Speaking without apologizing is not just about removing a word. It is about changing how you stand inside the language. Many English learners still feel small even when they stop saying sorry out loud. Inside, they may still feel guilty for taking time, using simple words, or not sounding fluent. That inner guilt quietly affects the voice. It makes sentences sound hesitant. It makes pauses feel uncomfortable. This segment is about removing that inner apology so your outer speech can feel stable. The key shift here is understanding that communication is not a favor you ask for. Communication is a shared space. When you speak, you are not interrupting life. You are participating in it. Confident speakers understand this deeply. They do not rush to justify their presence. They assume they belong in the conversation. That assumption changes everything. You may notice that when you listen to confident speakers, they do not try to prove anything. They speak simply. They pause naturally. They do not explain why they are pausing. They do not apologize for choosing words carefully. They trust that they are allowed to take time. That trust is what we are building now. Slow English helps create this trust. When you slow down, you send a signal to your body that you are not in danger and not being evaluated. The nervous system relaxes. When the nervous system relaxes, the voice becomes grounded. Grounded speech feels calm and confident even when the language is simple. At this stage, it is very important to stop mentally rehearsing sentences before you speak. Rehearsal increases pressure. Pressure brings back apologies. Instead, allow your sentences to form as you speak them. They do not need to be perfect. They just need to move forward. Movement is confidence. Stillness is fear. You may feel a strong urge to explain yourself when you stop apologizing. You may want to add extra words to sound polite or safe. Resist that urge gently. Politeness does not require self-erasure. Calm continuation is enough. When you speak calmly and continue, people naturally adjust to your pace. Another powerful shift in this segment is learning to hold silence without guilt. Silence does not mean failure. Silence means thinking. Silence means processing. Silence means you care about what you say. Confident speakers are comfortable with silence because they trust that silence will not harm them. When you hold silence calmly, you show self-respect. Your body language also matters here. When you apologize, your body often shrinks. Shoulders pull in. Breath becomes shallow. When you stop apologizing, allow your body to stay open. Breathe deeply. Let your shoulders relax. Physical openness supports vocal confidence. The body and voice are connected. You might notice that speaking without apologizing feels slightly uncomfortable at first. That discomfort is not danger. It is unfamiliarity. Your body is adjusting to a new way of existing in English. Old habits feel safe even when they are limiting. New habits feel strange even when they are healthy. Stay with the discomfort gently. It is also important to understand that confidence does not mean never caring about others. You can be respectful without shrinking. You can be kind without apologizing for your presence. Respect lives in tone and intention, not in unnecessary apologies. Right now, say this sentence slowly out loud if you can. I have the right to take time when I speak English. Say it again. Let that sentence settle into your body. This is not a rule you must prove. It is a truth you allow. As you practice this new posture, you may notice that your voice sounds clearer. Your sentences may become shorter but stronger. You may feel less exhausted after speaking. That is because you are no longer fighting yourself. You are allowing your voice to exist naturally. In the next segment, we will practice replacing apologies with specific calm phrases that sound natural in real conversations. These phrases will help you respond confidently in everyday situations without sounding aggressive or awkward. Step by step, you are building a new habit that feels solid and sustainable. When you are ready, we will continue together. At this point in the series, you have already changed something fundamental. You are no longer trying to remove apologies by force. You are building a new way of speaking that makes apologies unnecessary. Now, in this segment, we focus on what actually replaces apologizing in real conversations. Because if you only remove apologies without replacing them, your body may feel empty or unsafe. Replacement is what makes confidence stable. When people apologize unnecessarily, they are usually trying to achieve one of three things. They want to buy time, they want to soften a mistake, or they want to show respect. The problem is that apology is not the best tool for any of these goals. There are calmer, more confident ways to do all three, and this segment trains your body to use those alternatives naturally. Let's start with buying time. Many learners apologize when they need a moment to think. They say sorry because silence feels dangerous. But silence is not rude. Silence is neutral. When you replace apology with a pause, you send a message of calm control. You allow your sentence to form without pressure. This trains your nervous system to trust silence instead of fearing it. The next situation is softening a mistake. When something comes out wrong, your instinct may still be to say sorry quickly. But apologizing tells your brain that the mistake is a problem. Calm correction tells your brain that the mistake is normal. When you simply correct yourself and continue, you model confidence for yourself and for others. You show that the conversation can move forward without drama. The third situation is showing respect. Many learners apologize because they want to be polite, but respect does not require self-blame. Tone, pace, and intention show respect far more than unnecessary apologies. When you speak calmly and listen attentively, people feel respected. You do not need to lower yourself to raise others. At this stage, you may notice that your sentences are becoming shorter and clearer. This is a good sign. Confidence often sounds simpler than insecurity. Insecure speech is full of explanations, justifications, and apologies. Confident speech is direct and calm. It does not rush. It does not defend itself. It trusts that it belongs. You might still feel moments of discomfort when you choose not to apologize. That discomfort is not a warning, it is a transition. Your nervous system is learning a new pattern. Old patterns feel safe because they are familiar, not because they are helpful. New patterns feel strange before they feel natural. Give your body time to learn. Another important change happens here. You start noticing that conversations flow better when you stop apologizing. People respond to your meaning instead of reacting to your insecurity. You feel less tired after speaking because you are no longer managing guilt and fear at the same time. Speaking becomes lighter. It is very important in this segment to practice kindness toward yourself. If an apology slips out, do not punish yourself mentally. That only strengthens the old habit. Instead, notice it and continue. Progress is not the absence of mistakes. Progress is recovery without shame. Right now, say this sentence slowly, out loud if you can. I can continue speaking calmly without apologizing. Say it again. Notice how steady it feels. That steadiness is what we are building. As you practice these replacements in daily life, you may realize that your confidence is no longer something you have to create. It emerges naturally when fear is no longer in control. Confidence is not something you add to your English. It is something that appears when you stop subtracting yourself from the conversation. In the next segment, we will work on handling social situations where apologizing feels most automatic, such as meetings, group discussions, or talking to fluent speakers. You will learn how to hold your ground calmly without becoming tense or defensive. We will continue step by step until speaking without apologizing feels like your normal way of being. When you are ready, we will move forward together. By now, you have already learned how to speak without apologizing in calm, one-on-one situations. But there is one place where the habit of apologizing feels strongest for most English learners, and that is in social or professional situations. Meetings, group discussions, talking to fluent speakers, or speaking in front of people who seem more confident can immediately trigger old patterns. In this segment, we focus on staying grounded in those moments without shrinking or becoming defensive. When you enter a group situation, your body often becomes more alert. You may feel pressure to speak faster, sound smarter, or prove that you belong. That pressure is what usually brings apologies back. You might apologize for interrupting, for sharing an idea, or even for asking a question. But here is the truth. Group conversations are not competitions. They are shared spaces. You are allowed to contribute without asking permission. Confident speakers in groups do not rush to speak, and they do not apologize for entering the conversation. They wait, they listen, and when they speak, they do so calmly. They trust that their voice has value. This trust does not come from perfect English. It comes from an inner decision that says, I belong here. That decision is what we are training now. One of the most common apology triggers in group settings is comparison. You hear someone speak fluently, and your confidence drops. You think you need to lower yourself before speaking. But fluency does not equal authority. Many fluent speakers lack clarity, while calm speakers with simple English are often respected more. Calm presence carries weight. Speed does not. Slow English becomes even more powerful in group situations. When you speak slowly in a group, you stand out in a positive way. You sound thoughtful. You sound deliberate. You give people time to listen. Slow speech creates space, and space naturally commands attention. You do not need to apologize for that. Another challenge in group settings is interruption. If someone interrupts you, your instinct may be to apologize and stop, but interruption does not mean you were wrong to speak. Often, it simply means the conversation is active. Confident speakers handle interruption calmly. They pause, and when the moment returns, they continue. No apology is needed. Continuation itself is confidence. It is also important to let go of the idea that you must say something impressive in group conversations. You do not need to bring new information every time you speak. Sometimes, agreeing, clarifying, or summarizing is enough. These contributions are valuable. They show engagement and understanding, and they do not require apology. Your body posture plays a role here as well. When you feel the urge to apologize, notice what your body is doing. Are your shoulders tense? Is your breath shallow? Gently relax your shoulders and take a slow breath before speaking. That physical grounding helps your voice stay steady. A steady voice rarely feels the need to apologize. You may still feel nervous in these situations, and that is normal. Confidence does not mean the absence of nerves. Confidence means you speak anyway without self-erasing. Each time you do that, the nervous system learns that group speaking is survivable. Over time, it becomes easier. Right now, say this sentence slowly out loud if you can. I have the right to speak calmly in any conversation. Say it again. Let that sentence sink in. This is not arrogance. This is self-respect. As you practice this, you may notice something surprising. People respond differently to you. They listen more, they interrupt less. And even when they interrupt, you feel less shaken. That is because you are no longer signaling insecurity through apology. You are signaling calm presence. In the final segment, we will bring everything together and focus on making this way of speaking permanent. We will talk about how to maintain confidence over time and what to do if old habits try to return. This is where temporary practice becomes a lasting change. When you are ready, we will move into the final part together. You have now reached the final part of this training, and before we go any further, it is important to pause and recognize what has changed. You may not feel dramatic confidence or sudden fluency, and that is perfectly okay. What matters is something much deeper. English no longer feels like something you need to apologize for. Your voice no longer feels like an interruption. That shift, even if it feels small, is powerful. Speaking English without apologizing is not about controlling every word you say. It is about changing the relationship you have with your own voice. Earlier, your voice asked for permission. It tried to stay invisible. It apologized before existing. Now, your voice is learning something new. It is learning that it is allowed to take space calmly without guilt. One of the most important things to understand as you move forward is that old habits may still appear sometimes. You might hear yourself say sorry again in a stressful moment. That does not mean you failed. Habits formed over years do not disappear instantly. What matters now is how you respond afterward. Do you shrink and judge yourself, or do you notice it and continue calmly? Confidence lives in recovery, not in perfection. From this point on, your main goal is not to eliminate apologies completely. Your goal is to stop apologizing for the wrong reasons. Real apologies are still valuable. Apologizing when you truly hurt someone or make a real mistake is healthy. But apologizing for thinking, pausing, having an accent, or needing time is no longer necessary. You are learning to tell the difference, and that awareness protects your confidence. It is also important to stop measuring your English by how confident others seem. Confidence looks different on different people. Some confident speakers are quiet. Some speak slowly. Some speak with strong accents. Confidence is not a performance. It is a sense of inner permission. When you give yourself that permission, your voice naturally steadies. Slow English remains your strongest ally. Whenever pressure appears, return to slow speech. Slow speech reminds your nervous system that you are safe. It gives your thoughts time to arrive. It keeps your body relaxed. And when your body is relaxed, apologies lose their power. You may notice that speaking English now feels less exhausting than before. That is because you are no longer carrying extra emotional weight. Apologizing constantly drains energy. Calm continuation saves it. Over time, this makes English feel lighter, more usable, and more natural. Another important realization at this stage is that you do not need to announce your confidence. You do not need to explain that you are working on yourself. Confidence shows through calm presence. When you speak without rushing, when you pause without guilt, when you continue without apologizing, people feel it. You do not need to convince anyone. Your voice does the work for you. As you continue using English in daily life, remember this simple rule. When fear appears, do not fight it. Slow down, breathe, continue. Fighting fear creates tension. Continuing calmly teaches safety. Safety is what builds long-term confidence. Right now, say this sentence slowly, out loud, if you can. I can speak English without apologizing for my voice. Say it again. Let it feel normal. That sentence is not a goal. It is a reminder. This training does not end here. You will keep learning, making mistakes, and growing. But now you are doing it from a different place. A place where your voice is not asking for permission. A place where your presence is not something you apologize for. English is not owned by perfect speakers. It belongs to anyone willing to use it honestly. You have already proven that you understand. Now you are learning to trust yourself enough to speak without guilt. Take that trust with you. Use it slowly. Use it calmly. And whenever the old habit tries to return, remember this. You are allowed to speak. You are allowed to take time. and you do not need to apologize for being heard. This is not the end of your journey. This is the point where you continue with confidence.